Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for yielding time and for holding this important hearing today. And I'd like to thank each of the witnesses for being here, and particularly Ms. Tartak for being here to share your story. It's shocking to see what's happening in our society, what's happening on our campuses. There's something wrong with the moral fabric of our society when you have anti-Semitism rising in the way that we are seeing today. And it's hard to believe that we're here, particularly when we've seen the atrocities that Hamas have committed against the state of Israel in October. These were barbaric, inhumane, and deserving of strong retaliation. 1,400 innocent individuals brutally murdered, hundreds more still held hostage by Hamas, and 30 Americans killed in these attacks as well. And on these college campuses, in many cases, no mention made of any of that in these protests, no mention made of Hamas as a terrorist group. Instead, we're seeing, as you said, Ms. Tartak, Jewish students retreating to their Jewish centers in our college campuses. So it's totally unacceptable and should be called out for what it is. It's a hate crime. And unfortunately, far too many institutions of higher education are failing to do their duty to protect Jewish students and faculty from this aggression. And I think you've heard today that members of this committee are resolute in condemning anti-Semitism, and I'm hearing that on a bipartisan basis. And we continue to stand firmly behind Israel, behind Jews here in America, and behind Jewish students on college campuses. But I think about where do we get here, and Rabbi Hauer, you mentioned in your testimony that anti-Semitism has been cultivated in our K through 12 system, and then that spreads to institutions of higher education. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I just want to give this background as well. There's an effort in Pennsylvania to teach about the Holocaust in our K through 12 system, led by a professor at Penn State. I've visited some of the schools that have implemented teaching about the Holocaust at a young age, and how to do this. It's a difficult subject, and how to do it with very young students. But what is going wrong beginning in our K through 12 system that we're at the point where we are today?
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure if I would use the word myself, cultivated. I think what we have seen very clearly is that the kinds of behaviors and the kinds of environments that have been created in university campuses, which until very recently we only found in university campuses, we are now finding in K through 12, or specifically middle school through 12 environments. From our perspective, we have something called Jewish student unions, which are clubs which are held in public schools, and hundreds of public schools across the country for Jewish students who want to attend the club in the school hours. It's constitutional to be able to do so. We have had, especially since October 7th, but preceding it as well, but incredible spike in it since October 7th, descriptions of exactly the kinds of things that have been described here as occurring on university campuses. Rallies in middle and high schools, our clubs, students coming in to a club of Jewish students, sitting in the back and disrupting and making it impossible for the Jewish students to carry on, and then in fact chasing the students back towards their classrooms. We've had teachers in high schools who have been doing art projects of showing, for example, a fist emblazoned with the Palestinian colors going through the Israeli. Kinds of things which are making students deeply uncomfortable. It didn't happen before. And in a certain sense, I think that's especially compelling for us to consider in Title VI discussions, because universities, it's been there for a while. It's going to be a big project to dial it back. in K through 12 schools, it's just beginning. It's just beginning, and we have to address it very, very
I know I'm
firmly.
out of time, but I would be very interested in hearing your thoughts on how can we change that in K through 12? How important is education about the Holocaust? What can we do differently? But I don't have time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.